Right, welcome everybody to my watercolor class. And today we're exploring a very exciting modern artist, a Korean artist. He's based in Bangkok. He's a designer and illustrator. We looked at some of his watercolors in the past. So he's called Sanga Park, if I hope I'm pronounced it right. But he uses some gorgeous washes with inks and build up the layers, glazes, works quite spontaneously, creates the atmosphere within the painting, something we can focus on, something we can exclude. And so we're not going to be painting his image today, but we will be looking at the photograph I took in Florence of Duomo. So I was in Campanile, the tower next to it, so looking from it. So I want to have something similar in style, in approach, to kind of introduce to my own photograph there. Okay, so we've got some lost and found details here. So before we do that on a larger format, and we'll be using some inks today. So I've got my ink pot and my ink pen, range of brushes as usual. So before we get started on a larger scale, I wanted us to explore a little bit more composition. How do we know which sections of the building or of the painting we want to focus on, which one we want to lose? So let's do a couple of designs here. So first of all, I'm going to do a couple of boxes, probably an A5 roughly size. Okay, just freehand, or if you wanted to use a ruler or just wanted to tape your image. Right, so let me just do it here so you can see it tiny bit higher. Okay, let's do it like that. So what I have as an overall composition here, let's just kind of draw a simplified version of our building, of our cathedral, our grand, very famous Renaissance cathedral, very famous, iconic architectural building. So let's have a look at it as a whole layout, and then we can decide what we can include, what we can exclude. So first of all, I have the dome, the large shaped dome, kind of in the top center section of the building. So if I were to divide my image into half, it's going to stay at the top part, and it dominates the top part of the paint of the whole space. So I have almost like a cylinder at the top, and for now, because it's my sketch, I'm just going to do a wobbly shape of a dome. Okay, something's going to there. We can decide if we want to extend the tower, the top. So we can just plan our composition later on. We can focus more on the exact shape of it and perspectives. But for now, all I want you to think is overall shape. Okay, so almost like a box, a rectangular box there, something a bit more elongated or round dome. Okay. And then roughly somewhere halfway through the cathedral here, I'll just put a straight line there. We're going to start having some of the parts of the cathedral coming towards us. Okay, perspective is going to start to happen. But let's have a look at some more vertical lines we might need. So maybe part of it's going to start somewhere here. Part of it starts going to somewhere kind of in between the end of our dome, maybe somewhere in the middle. It doesn't matter for now. And maybe we can continue part of the wall of dome further down, and some of those extended towers which support the cathedral's thick wall. So we've got a few vertical lines here. Okay. So we've got these gorgeous belts of the Duomo with these beautiful round windows. So if we roughly divide them into a couple of belts, maybe there would be another extra line, and kind of to know we've got an area, maybe a blank area, we've got somewhere the windows might be somewhere there. We can tweak the perspectives of it. So far we're just simplifying shapes like big. And then we'll have some of the perspectives, right? So we've got our vertical line towards for the top part of the cathedral. I want you to think about it quite simply. One section of the rooftop is going to be just off the straight line. So if I've got a horizontal straight line, just going to go off that line, just tiny bit higher up. And another one, if I would have had another box again here, just below it, so that's going to be something a bit wider. Okay, roughly. And then we have a shallow roof, almost again, if it would have been a straight line, just tiny angle. And that's going to be our other roof, almost parallel line, maybe coming towards us, tiny bit wider. That's the basics I want us to think about. Okay. And then this line will break up into sublines of our rooftop. Okay, I'm just going to show it to you, just a simplified version of it there. And that's going to be another rooftop. And then all the rest are going to be whatever the windows or vertical lines of the designs. Again, it's not too important as long as we can see something is happening one direction and something is happening the other direction. We can play with that afterwards. Trying to simplify our overall design. Okay. And then on the right-hand side of the cathedral, again, we're going to simplify shapes. We have almost like a round semicircle, another dome which supports the sides, walls, fantastic stories about how things have been created, how Brunelleschi been building the dome, and the Medici and everything else involved there. Fantastic stories. And just roughly, I'm going to place the basic shapes here. There will be some darker roof again. So all I'm interested in is overall silhouette of the dome coming towards the right somewhere here, and then just disappearing at the bottom. It just disappears. I'm not interested in what's going to happen there below yet. Okay. So this is what I'd like us to play with. So we've got a bit of horizon and some mountains in the distance. If we wanted to include, we wanted to make them even more dramatic, or part of the city there, more in color than anything else. So if I were to simplify the design in a thumbnail image, so a very small one, I will see something like this. Okay, so we've got something there. Okay, so that will be easier for me to manipulate, or can even draw a couple of shapes here. Okay, just makes everything so much more simpler. So if I started with a, just started with that overall silhouette, that's plenty for us to think about. Okay, because now we can start identifying what we want as part of our image, how much focus or where we want to have that focus. Okay, so for example, one focus could be, let's say, central part and lower part of our cathedral. Okay, maybe it will be the top and maybe kind of segments of the windows and part of the wall. So I'm looking at our artists and influential artists. We've got maybe the tops, maybe partially the middle, maybe something catching at the bottom. Okay, maybe the range of them all, maybe all three. So I'm almost looking at a smaller circle, a medium size kind of focal point circle, and a larger one. Okay. So that's my thinking here.
Julia, how do you figure out what's the main focal point? Or
This is the
plan?
This is the plan. This is what I'm thinking now.
Ah.
Could it be variations? Yeah, this is my option 1. Maybe my option 2 will be totally different. So this is what we're going to play with and decide which one's going to be best for us. So okay, I've got some more rooftops here.
And
so,
how would you go about making that the focal point?
That's what I'm going to start doing a bit more. I'm going to do 2 samples here, so don't worry.
Okay.
Well done. Good
Sorry.
thinking there. Good. No. All very well there, Gabrielle. Well done. So, for example, if that will be my option 1, okay, let's say 3 circles, yeah. Maybe my option 2 for light will be, let's say, something more central here, and maybe something maybe a bit smaller there, and maybe something smaller here, and that might be just very simple image there, yeah. So I quite like the idea of a large zoom point, smaller ones, and medium one. Okay. Another option we could have had, instead of well, I'm doing a semi-circle kind of circles, rough areas, yeah. Another option we can have, that's why I simplified the image here, so we can have much more kind of easier to redraw the shape while we're planning things. So that's again my rough silhouette here. Okay, one rooftop, another rooftop. So another option is possibly just taking a section, kind of cutting off, and maybe cutting off, and maybe doing something else. Yeah, so it's kind of focus points, maybe corner, and everything else quite vague. Okay, but then I'm losing maybe some of the important parts of the cathedral's windows. Yeah, so that's where that planning, thinking comes. Okay, maybe another option. Okay, okay, one rooftop, another rooftop. Maybe that will be a very big chunk of the cathedral here. Let's just highlight it, what we can focus on, and then little elements here, and maybe little elements of the landscape. All the rest is staying vague. Yeah, so different ways of how we can plan. So my initial thoughts, just looking at some of these ones, I quite like my gut reaction for that state, for the option 1. And out of the other ones, yeah, maybe that will be quite an interesting one, because it's a nice big chunk of the cathedral, a bit of landscape, a bit of something else. Maybe that will be my option 2. And this is how I develop it. So I'll start with 2 versions. So let's say that's going to be my 1 piece and another piece. Okay, it's a very, very quick development. And if I'm not still sure, not still quite happy with them as I work into them, then maybe I can explore my option 3. Okay, so let's do it together. Let's just do very quick sketches for our option 1 here and option 2 here. Okay, as experiments. So for the sketches, I don't want us to spend hours drawing things. All I want us to do is, again, to almost come up with that simple formula. Rough silhouette. So a bit of an angle for the roof, a bit of a round dome, maybe this angle a bit lower. If it's going to be different, doesn't matter. Okay, something there. A bit more longer down here. Okay. A little box for the campanile, little tower. Okay. And I'll do the same, repeat. So if you would have studied kind of and done a more steady drawing, you could have just traced it a number of times when I'm just resketching them. And that saves you time and saves you redoing it and kind of worry about details. Okay. So for the first version, actually, you know what? I'm just looking at my both options. They're a little bit similar. So I need to make sure that they will be different because yes, I'm looking at part of the cathedral, maybe half of the cathedral, and okay, that's what I'm making difference here. Part of the cathedral and that supportive tower in a landscape. Okay, the tower at the top. When on the second option, I have more of a together longer piece. Okay, and then here maybe something hint on the sky and the mountains. Okay, let's do it that way. Okay, right, and I'm going to straight away go for the colors. We're going to explore some of the colors, some of the basic colors, and we're going to straight away go for some of the washes. So let's have a look at the colors here together. We've got something coolness, some sort of coolness, and we've got some sort of warmth. So I think if we were to explore that warmth and coolness, warmth could come from a little bit of orange and maybe sienna. So let's just put it on our paper to have a look. Get a bit of stronger orange and maybe sienna, or any of your browns with a bit of orange, which will make them a bit more extra warmer. Okay. And if we mix them together, if I've got another orange, maybe I'll try another orange as well. I think that's more yellowish orange. That's quite nice as well. Okay. So any of those combinations or mixing them all together. So if when we're talking about, okay, let's put a little bit of warm color. Oops, I'm going for the wrong color here. Okay, here's my sienna again. So my sienna, let's say if I mix it with one of the oranges, just makes it a bit more stronger. If I'll mix my sienna with a bit more orangey, dark kind of reddish orange, just makes it a bit more, yeah, a bit stronger in color. So any variations of these colors will be fantastic. Now they're extra bold towards the orange and brown. When we start doing the washes and blend it with cooler colors, they will have in between tones, they will have more grays in between our cool colors as well. So if we start with them as strong, we've got loads of opportunities to calm them down and soften them. Okay. And for the cool colors, I'd say I'm gonna go for indigo. Okay, some indigo. Okay. And to support some of that indigo, so I'm going to start looking for maybe sections of the sky, or sections, maybe part of the landscape, or maybe just to contrast some of the reds we could have in a tower, as well as some of the colors our artist's using. I think maybe a little bit of turquoise. So our image is not going to look so dark and so grim. This is just our observational photograph. So I think a turquoisey color will be good. So, or if you have a fresh turquoise, okay, that's more of a turquoise there. Or you can mix it using your sky blue and ultramarine, sorry, and emerald green. Okay. So that's more or less the same. So if you've got a already made color, or you can mix your own. And they do look very bold colors. But if we start mixing them together, so let's say I have some ultramarine, sorry, if I have my turquoise mixed, I'll just stretch it a little bit out. If I'll stretch a little bit my indigo, so it's quite watery, quite a lot of moisture staying there. Then I'm going to add any of those browns, my oranges. Okay, just mix it with them a little bit. You'll see what we're going to end up with shortly. So they're looking quite dark here, but I'm not going to keep them as dark. What I'm going to have, try to pick up any colors for where they're mixing and dilute it. Okay, that's from indigo and brown, and then turquoise and brown, diluted. So we've got those in between colors. So it's almost as warm's going to be on one side of the spectrum, cool's going to be the other one, and then how they're going to mix together, there's going to be staying in the middle for us. Okay, kind of those vague sections. That's how we're going to place them. Okay. Now another little experiment we can do. And let me have another piece of paper here to show you. It's how we're going to apply our colors. Now, before we decide to do a little focus, just a little quick sketch. You can just watch me here and we can work on those two together afterwards. So let's say that's the size of my paper. So I could start applying water. Now, if I apply water now, you're not going to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to apply a pale wash of just this neutral, so a bit of blue, a little bit of brown together. So how we're going to be applying color. So instead of just all building, yeah, so we've got that silhouette which we just identified. That was the whole silhouette of it. So we're not going to do that. Okay, that's kind of shape. I would have made it dark. I would have been able to see it better. Okay, not as a simple shape, but we're going to start thinking of exciting shape. Okay, so and we're going to do it with water later on. So for example, I'm going to go for, okay, if I need to have a highlight of my tower, maybe I'll just go for part of the dome, a little tower, and a section of the silhouette somewhere coming down here. Okay, and then I'll go, okay, so I've got the focal point somewhere here, so maybe part of the roof, and we can tweak it when we'll have a larger drawing. We can have it much more planned. Okay, maybe part of that roof, maybe part of the other roof is going to be missing. Yeah, maybe something else, maybe part of the window will be caught. Maybe some of the other parts of the walls, maybe that's all that's going to be caught there. Yeah, maybe for the corner here we're talking about, okay, maybe that will be connecting with another window, round window here, and the side here. Okay, and maybe even part of that landscape in there. So in a way, those are the shapes I'll start highlight, kind of putting water on. Okay, so if I were to put some water here, you're not going to see it. So I'm going to do exactly the same outline of water somewhere here. Okay, the reason we have wide gaps, so the color doesn't run where we don't want it. Yeah, so we can have some of those whites left. We can always add to it, okay, if we needed to. But if we can leave some out first, that would be fantastic. So stage one, we'll be doing some water in a shape, and we'll break them down. We'll do maybe one shape and we'll do something else to it. We'll do another shape, we'll do something else to it. We'll do kind of connect them in stages, so you're not going to be lost on your own. So the step two is going to be adding some color to it. No, maybe I'll move it back. So for example, where I've placed my wash, let's say it's transparent, just water wash, I'll put a little bit of blue and a little bit of orange and a little bit of brown, and then the rest of it's going to be water, and we'll see how it's going to blend. Okay, so let me just show it as a little random shape, but clean water. Okay, for you to see what shape I will be doing, let's just me outline a rough placement of it. Okay, and let's do something maybe. You don't need to worry about it at all, because once we've done our drawing on a paper, it's all will come together. Okay, so that will be my white spaces. So if I paint them with some water, one shape at a time. Okay. And then I'll add a little bit of my warm color, a little bit of my cool color. And you can decide which colors you want to put where. I want you to be playful. So I'm going to go for a bit of fresh sienna. I'm just going to let it run. I'm going to put a little bit of orange. Now we know the dome is going to have loads of warm colors. We can touch other colors afterwards. A bit more stronger. Orange. And this area might not have much blue, but I'm going to add a little bit of it still. Okay. Okay, that's enough of blue for me. That's kind of the type of wash we'll be building first time. For the other areas, it's might be some water again, segments of the buildings. Maybe that's where I'll put some turquoise. Okay, some turquoise might run, get some quite runny sections. We'll have some maybe more stronger indigo. And it will be very soft and very spontaneous. And if we wanted a little bit of that orangey brown, maybe some of it somewhere else as well. Okay. And with the other section, exactly the same. Okay, I've got a bit of a warm wash. And I might just add a few more cooler strokes to it as well. Okay, does it make sense? Good. So very free and spontaneous. So on our area in the way, this is what's already done there. Yeah, maybe a bit more abrupt. But let's just do it together now, so we can just repeat the process. Because if we were to paint all of this area with water, everything's just going to be a big blur. I'm going to lose some of the sharpness of it. So almost like leaving a few things out. So let's do the top, maybe part of the cathedral here, maybe the top tower, maybe something a bit more close, and maybe stop. And I can't see where my lines are of water. I'm just going to have to be brave and introduce some color and just see what's going to happen. See where it's going to run, see where it's going to stop. Move from one orange to a bit of brown, to a bit of blue later on. I'm just going to see what's going to stop, where it's going to stop. Maybe a little bit of turquoise here. Okay. Okay. We will top colors darker and work for a little bit more details later on, but that's our initial start. Okay. And if I'll leave it here so you can see the rough shapes I'm aiming for, let me just take some water off them. runny edges. Okay, so that's kind of a rough shape I'm aiming for. Maybe another rough shape, maybe another rough shape here. So let's go for some more water on this corner. So that's all still for my option 1. Because they're quite quick, maybe I'll do my second one somewhere here as well. And let's work for some more turquoisey colors, a bit more indigo. Going for indigo, I might just dilute it. Lots of lovely cool shadows. And then maybe a little bit of orangey browns. I know the rooftops are somewhere roughly there, but they're all bit of a blur for us. Okay. So that might be the image I'm ending up with. Very quick, very runny, and that's my kind of first plan of how much light, so how much light white I'm leaving. Okay. Let's give you a little bit of time to do that. Right, and let's do the second design and see what's that second one might be different with. I'm going to have more of the corner now covered. I think that's staying more. I think that's more or less I connected those ones accidentally or naturally how it feels. That's okay, because again, we're designing and we're developing it. To make it more different now, I'm fancying this one as well. Where we can see maybe something at the bottom here, maybe slightly different trim here. Oh, that might be an interesting one. Okay, so I'm adjusting my planning already. Okay, let's do maybe the top part of the cathedral here and part of the roof, and then the bottom, so almost like nothing in the middle. Maybe some part of the landscape later. Okay, let's do that one. So let's have a little tower, top quarter maybe of the cathedral dome, and let's put some color into that. Let it run. Let's add a bit of pale color. Let's see where it will settle. And then the bottom part, maybe this will be slightly larger segment. Okay. I think I know where I'm putting water, but it's hard to see, so we'll see what's going to happen. Now I'll start with turquoise, because there are loads of white walls, a little bit of indigo, just very diluted. So we simplified the colors, so we know we're not going huge volumes. It's just 1 or 2 direct colors. And let's put a little bit of that warmth as well. And got this gap left, maybe just break it down. Okay, so that's another interesting look. And that's where maybe the mountains will come. Maybe they will come somewhere a bit more exaggerated and offset our white wall of the cathedral here. And even there. So that's our creative thinking there. You can still add, little windows. So don't be scared that you're going to be lost without the very important details, or there will be some thinner ranges of the lines coming in. Yeah, just giving you an idea of some of the details possibly coming. And of course, we'll be darkening certain areas. So as our little designs are drying, maybe we can top up a little bit of indigo. And okay, that's quite dark. Just do it a little softer. So those semi-darker, well, extra darker tones will come gently first. So we know what's tiny bit of those focusing elements might be. Another tower. Something a little bit more darker within those already painted areas. So we're almost like breaking them into a bit more extra details. So that becomes quite exciting. Yeah, just gonna collect some of the water ones. I'm quite happy for you just to watch me, just to see that process. If you're painting alone, that's brilliant as well. So I'm quite happy with that one. So that's almost, I think that's, yeah, something in between my initial plan. Interesting how the work amends, how you plan it and how the media dictates you. Okay, let's get a bit more indigo for the second little sketch. Maybe of a similar kind, darkness. Slightly additional kind of focus on it. Now my cathedral start looking a little bit not quite in the proportion, but it doesn't matter. Something else darker. So I might be skipping most of the darkness here, but maybe there will be a couple of windows or just very light hints of something coming in. But all the rest is focusing on the darkness of the shadows. So today, design is more important than anything else. Yeah, I think that one's looking quite exciting. And that one a little bit out of balance. So I think that mountain range will come in. That's better. And that's when we ponder what will be better. Where can we add maybe a bit more extra orange, or maybe explore other options. Let's have a look. Maybe some of this darkness will come in a bit more into that orangey brown. So those accents, yeah, of focus are now moving within the shapes. So I'm not just looking, oh, there is a window, oh, there is this one, there is that one, but I'm also looking for pattern of that light. I quite like that orange coming maybe somewhere here with some light on the roof, but it also supports me orange kind of, yeah, brown. This is quite interesting suddenly. Maybe that pale blue could have been more warmer rather than cooler. It's another option. Let's get this one slightly stronger because it's right in front of us. Okay. And maybe the second piece I'll make a little bit more cooler, maybe go for even more indigos. And even more kind of accentuating that tower in the shadow. Both are quite exciting pieces. Yeah, and that's my disdain, almost quite graphic. Very, very pale, some of these patterns. So I'm ending up in a way similar to some extent, kind of that part of the cathedral and the lower part on the right of the supporting towers. But at the same time, I'm making a difference through that compositional focus and also through the volume of color. Right, so now we have done some planning. We can start doing our sketch. Let's keep it as simple as we had it earlier. So if we divide our paper into half, roughly into half, our tower is going to stay in the top half, probably part of the that lovely belt is going to be above the central line. So I'm looking for the width of the tower. Now I made it on my sketches, I made it slightly narrower than on the photograph. So in a way, I'm looking for that wide space, a little bit smaller and much smaller space there, yeah? So I don't want the size of the kind of the neck, the main part of the cathedral's dome being the same size as the gap, a tiny bit more bigger for me. So we want that variety. Okay. So we've got a belt with the windows. If I'll just roughly place it, I might need to move it. A rough belt with the windows, and there is a blank belt, a little bit smaller. That was actually meant to be finished design. Well, it was designed, but it's not built by Brunelleschi. They ran out of time. And then I've got our dome. Now I need to make sure that I want to fit my tower. So maybe I need to make the width of the cathedral slightly smaller here. Okay, let's have a look. So tweaking, because the sketch came out quite nice with extra space. Okay, now I can shrink this side a little. Because we've got lovely elongated shape. If I were to look, if I forget at all the edges, you know, those white, almost like bones for the dome, but look at the whole shape first, divide it into central line and plan it all together first. I'll have a better shape for it. We can decide, because it's got 6 granules to it, it's a complex design, but we're going to keep it simplified first. Maybe a tiny bit lower for me. So it's not perfect circle, it's elongated. It's supposed to be a shape of an egg. You know, if we would have fitted an egg there, yeah, that's the top of the egg, which has again been cut. Okay, that's my kind of shape of an egg here. That's how it's a little bit elongated at the top. And even the top have that, well, I can draw the shape of the neck where we're looking at it. We can see that lovely roundy edge. Need to make sure that my right and left sides are more equal. And then the tower at the top, I'm going to keep it as a narrow box. And then I'm going to do almost like that top of the egg semicircle. Yeah, just a couple of shapes. And I'm just going to doodle on top a few designs of, yeah, quite loose. I'm just going to doodle them because we're going to play with them. I'm going to probably lose part of them. Because we're not doing full architectural study of it. We're doing focal points. So I don't want us to have everything perfect and all everything sketched. Just tweaking my lines. Okay. Now, if I'll get back to that initial, okay, I'm going to rub out that egg shape again. We use it as a support, no longer need it. Now, so where we have the narrow belt for the windows, now we can break that one down into segments. Now we have two big segments where the windows are and two tiny ones, one minuscule one on the right hand side and another one tiny bit wider on the left hand side. So the cathedral is almost divided into half within those window segments, but it's not quite. It's a bit more towards the right. So that's going to be my division line. And a minuscule left on the right, and then slightly bigger one left on the left. Okay. And there will be some loads of decorations there. And if I were to draw the windows as an outer rings, okay. The other one we can't see because of part of the roof, but so far I'm going to draw the full width of it. So the full what we could have been able to see. Okay. And we can continue these little vertical lines up for the next row. But the lines from straight ones, because we're looking at the cathedral right in front of us. I'm going to slowly start creating some perspective. I'm going to keep my central line as the main one, and from it, my line on the left is going to have a tiny angle, and the line on the right is going to have a tiny angle. And then they follow a tiny bit more angle there, and tiny bit more, much more sharper there. Okay, so if we start there first. And then at the below our windows, I'm going to do the opposite. From that central line, the line on the left is going to go a little bit up. And we can't see the rest. And we're going to have the line on the right going towards a little bit up, the opposite direction. And that's where it's going to go. Maybe not as sharp as that, actually. It might be a bit too sharp. And the rest is going to be lost, so I don't want you to worry about it. So I want you to keep it more blank. But one will go a little bit low and one will go a little bit higher. But blank is fine as well. because all we'll be interested in is doing some lines, vertical lines. Just keep your lines vertical whenever they need to go down. I just spotted a couple of mine started to go a bit wobbly, so let's just straighten them. Okay. And the reason we needed those 4 segments, 1, 2, 3, 4, is so that we can draw those lovely white structural bones for the cathedral. You know what? We're not going to even need that line. So if you have done it, it doesn't even have to be there. I'm just going to have a roof there. Right. So bones for the cathedral. Dome. One is almost straight, but a tiny, tiny bit of an edge for it. I'm going to make it slightly wider. It's tiny, tiny bit of a uneven, not quite straight bend. Another one, if you look for kind of a gap, what left from it to the of the beautiful terracotta roof, yeah. So then you will see that silhouette, and then it's coming on the outer part of the dome. And the last one is just stays as a silhouette and then it disappears behind the line we just drawn. Okay. And they are coming all the way here. Now, if you're using slender lines we can rub out very easily, that will be best. And then I'm going to do almost again the perimeter of that dome. Now, if your dome will end up a little bit wobbly, we can play with it and we can adjust it. Well, we don't have to tell all the details about our dome when we start painting, when we start adding details with ink. Okay. Now my dome looks a little wobbly. I think I need to do it a tiny bit more. Here. I need to look a little bit more central here. That's what it is. Less talking, more observing. Okay. Okay, tricky part is done. Let's give you a little bit of time to finish it off. Just doing a couple of windows on the tower at the top. Add a bit of details as we go as well. Right. Now, once we've done with our dome, don't worry if you haven't quite finished. I'm not worried about the details. Things are a little bit not quite there. We can work with the paint and play with it. We might not need all the details we've drawn. We might just get rid of some of them, so don't panic. Right, so next one were the rooftops of the main body of the cathedral coming towards us. So what we did first, we drawn one of the rooftops going on the top. Now, if we look at our window, we can find where we can cut it. Yeah, how that roof comes towards us. It's almost straight line, but tiny, 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 tiny bit towards us. If we exaggerate it, it's fine as well. I've exaggerated a little bit more on my sketch than maybe I will on my actual painting. Okay, so that's one rooftop. And the building itself kind of stops on that central line where the windows separate. We can roughly decide where we want to stop it. I'm just looking at the width of the roof roughly, and the width of that space of the wall, and I'm going to make it much wider here. That's it. So it's coming right towards us. You can even compare the size of the wall here and the size of the roof, or how much space we've got left. Maybe the other roof will come up almost from the corner, maybe more from the center. So that might give us an idea of the width. And then the second roof almost comes flat because there is a little balcony. There's an angle to it, but there's also a little wall around it. So if you do it more or less straight, that's fine as well. If you do it another slight angle, that's fine as well. But I'm more interested in the overall that direction. Okay, there's a width to that wall, so that's why I've done a couple of lines here. But that will be my planning. Maybe even more dramatic angle. Maybe even more dramatic angle. Loads of vertical lines. So let's start with the first one where that rooftop is finishing. And I quite like some of those two kind of edges where we can see some light. So maybe I'll just do one kind of width of light, maybe close to us. A little bit more. Don't need to worry about what's happened on top of them. There are little balconies standing out. But they're kind of lost. They're lost within that tone, within that shape, within that color, within that silhouette. They're a little bit lost. That's where they're going to come out. Okay, I just need to double check my vertical lines. I think they're again wobbling because I'm not looking at it straight. I'm looking down on my paper for the camera. Best is to have to draw your line straight, is to have your image right in front of you here. So when you're facing it straight, as if it was on the wall or your easel. Okay. Right. My other details will be a little tower under one of the windows here. So it's a lovely round top tower. And I'm going to put a straight line for the roof for it. And then just tiny bit more of an oval just to catch it, just gently. So round, almost the size, maybe a little bit more than the size of our window above. Yeah, I think I'm running out of space there. By the time we extend it, that will be fine. Okay. I'm not going to break down. If you're slightly out of proportions, I don't want you to worry about. I want you to create the image much more spontaneous rather than worrying about it. And where that tower is, that's where I roughly know where my other one's going to be, because they're symmetrical. There's so many of them around the cathedral. So I'm going to have half of that same shape, maybe a tiny bit further out. And without getting lost within all the details there, just going to look for some of that silhouette. I've got extra space here for on my paper than on my sketch or on my photograph, but that's okay. And again, I'm just going to use some vertical lines. I'm seeing a little bit of the balcony-like shape, which could have a bit of darkness there when I'll start sketching it. So I'm just only going to do some sketching of darkness. You can see some sort of arches, where they are, where they're attached, I don't know. Just going to loads of vertical lines and arches and something else going on. Vertical lines going down, where they're going to be, exactly what's going to happen, I don't know. How are they going to be connected? Doesn't matter. No, I want it to be lost. It's a lovely elongated dark window. Yeah, do I want to include it? Do I want to exclude it? That's something we can decide on individual basis. Now, there are loads of arches and details and all sorts of things. Now, we can or plan really thoroughly or stay more spontaneous and play with ink and watercolor with it. Okay. So I'm quite happy with the structure here so far. Might add 2 more windows on the body of the elongated cathedral. We have 1 round window and another one. So if I roughly place them there, 1 smaller, narrower oval, another one slightly bigger, wider one. Looks like I've got massive gaps between them. I think I'll move them around. No, in the shape of the cathedral, they spaced out. I might, if I would have had my photograph extending, I might have had another one here. Just in proportion, it looks better for my sketch here. Okay. Another thing we played with was that shadow here somewhere on the rooftop. Maybe even going slightly up. That's great. Bit of light. Kind of directness all here. So complicated, but if we break it down and play with it, we've got enough structure, but it's beautiful what we're going to be, how we're going to be playing with it now. I'll just remove some of the supportive lines here, the back. and I'll add a tiny bit of the horizon. I'm going to exaggerate some of the mountains because they are quite dramatic, but from where we are, we might not see as many of them. Maybe I'll make one, maybe the mountains on the left tiny bit taller, just to balance it differently. Maybe this one will have more foggy area, and then we'll have maybe part of the town. Just give some extra space, extra depth. And our deep sky might have loads of emptiness, or we might have a little wash, we'll see. Right, so the drawing is finished now. Right, so now, first of all, once you're happy with your drawing, if you've got any dark lines, we need to lighten them. We need to use a rubber and kind of soften them down. Now I'm going to keep them so you can see what I'll be doing here. But ideally, we want to keep them as light as possible. Another option is to trace this drawing, or you can even, when you finish the watercolor, you can always trace it again and then have another go at doing a similar sketch. But then you don't have the paper which has been rubbed and worked on a lot. You will have much more simplified lines. You can tweak things as well, or just save you time to do maybe another version of the painting. Right, so now I'm looking at my color designs here, and I'm now thinking I maybe can do, yes, that cooler version, but maybe some of my very, very pale warmth from this color could come in somewhere. Or maybe some of my shadow will have a little bit more warmer tones as well. But I do like maybe the design of patterns, kind of how they develop from the bottom, staying in the middle, and the top, and kind of losing the focal point here. I think that might be one of my today's larger versions. Okay, so let's give it a go. Your versions will be fantastic to see because there is no one way of painting today. Right, as it will be harder for you to see where I'm applying water, you're very welcome to watch a little stage at a time, as I'll be photographing it as well, and then following me through afterwards. We'll do the lighter wash first on each little segment. Then we'll add some ink, and then we'll start adding some darker tones and work into a little bit more details. Okay, so that's going to be the process for the painting application. So I have a pot with clean water, and I've got water I've been using. So I'm going to start with some clean water. I haven't got a huge brush. Maybe later on I'll use a larger brush, but I'm going to start with my medium to large size. Right, so I want to paint the outlines of my little tower at the top. Okay. Now, looking at my design and my painting design, I'm going to go for the left part of the cathedral with some water, maybe a little bit of the edge on the side here. Now, if you paint with too much water than you wanted to, it's okay. We can always play and maybe not add color to those areas. Yeah. Now, what I'll be looking now, where I'm painting water, is some of the straight lines, vertical lines, or some of those pencil marks already made to help me out. Okay. Maybe where that rooftop is going to be. So I'm going to just stop a tiny bit more around this window. Okay, and maybe stop here because I can't see where I've applied my colors as well now. So I'll go with my mop brush. I know it will bring quite a lot of moisture for me. I want to go for some turquoise. Okay, I want to have some nice coolness there. I want a bit of coolness on that tower. I want to see what's going to happen to the paint and how it's going to run. I want to see that freshness of the color as well as some of the warmth of it. If some of the, those bones of the cathedral are white and if they're catching a bit of shadow, they might have some coolness to it. If part of the walls of the cathedral are, again, got loads of patterns of white, so those might be my opportunities where to put some of that turquoise. Okay, so maybe that will stay there. We quite like the indigo, so maybe it will be some extra indigo on the rooftop, on the top, on the kind of a higher point. I quite like things running here. Maybe that indigo will continue a tiny bit more on the shadow of this roof here as well. Okay. And I'm going to add a little bit of the orangey brown. So I have my sepia and I have my darker orange. Just wanted to place a little bit of that color and just see what's going to happen, how it will run. If I wanted anything in between of lighter tones, I know I'm making quite a lot of shadows here. I can combine, remember how we were mixing the colors and making things a little bit more softer. So colors are running, colors are mixing, colors are staying soft. Okay, that's all good. And I'm going to stop it. I'm just going to collect some water or a little dribble here. And I'm going to stop. Okay, so that cathedral is not finished. It's kind of, it's that very romantic, very light catching glow. Might put tiny bit of the orangey color on top of my little tower. I think if it will catch a bit of light at the top, that will be extra glow for it. I like that. Okay. We can add to it when it's dry. So don't overwork it. Right, now I'm going to focus on the lower right section. And because it has a lot of shadows and quite reasonably dark area, I'm going to apply straight away my diluted turquoise. Or could have done indigo. I think I'm going to go for, let's have a look. I think I'm going to go for indigo. So quite diluted. So then you can see where I'm applying it. And also, it's not going to be a problem because everything's going to stay all together as a big shape. So let's start maybe somewhere, maybe have a little bit connection with the previous shape and work on a tower, another tower, and then everything below this area. If you want to leave anything white, I don't know, maybe a little ridge or a little edge, we can do that just as a little playful. And I'm going to take it all off the paper. Maybe even taking it further. I had a bit of a gap of the, could have had down streets there, but I'm going to take it all out. And while it's still pale, while it's still wet, I'm going to start adding a bit more stronger color. So quite like my mop brush for that. So let's have some turquoise. If you mix in your turquoise, it's emerald green and any of your blues, especially azure blue, sky blue. Right, and again, like on the cathedral roof, I'm going to just add maybe some of that turquoise, maybe on the edges of the domes, maybe on the silhouette here. I'm just playful. I want to keep it that lovely pattern of work of all these lines developing there. Yeah, very exciting. But I also want a little bit more darkness and a little bit more of the brown. So if I start with the brown first, so sepia and some orange, and maybe just a little dab on the domes, or maybe somewhere. So it just gives me that extra depth. Because next I want to have a little bit more indigo, slightly darker. My indigo mainly is going to stay in that focal point kind of darkness at the top, kind of middle wall, middle section, top of that segment. Again, possibly around the, it's just somewhere here, just maybe drag it. And then the lower it gets, it almost disappears, yeah? The darkness stays on the tops section. And how things are runny, once you applied it, leave it. Feels like you could touch things up. It will be more exciting for you to work with it later. Leave it, let it settle. Right, now I want to connect a little bit here. Now on my sketch, I have very light, pale blues. If I'll just show it to you again here. So some of the paler corner here, yeah, but maybe I'll use it pale, but maybe I'll do it in more warmer colors. Okay, but definitely pale, and then we'll do something with the mountains. So last couple of touches for the washes. So how I did the very light indigo, I'm going to go for a diluted orange. So I'm going to go for a little bit lighter diluted version of it. It's quite strong. So if I'll have more water to that. So I'll look for the shadow line. Okay, so that's quite diluted. I can always make it darker if I want to, but I want to keep it pale. I'm going to keep with some of them, maybe pattern work on the wall, maybe part of the windows, maybe some of the little vertical edges we've drawn those boxes for. Okay. And I think to support those paler colors, I'm going to bring a little bit of turquoise. And this time I'm going to go for maybe direction of the roof to see how it will run. Or it doesn't matter, you could have just placed it anywhere. Might just give me a little bit direction of the actual roof. That's for the shadow direction. And there might be some edges, but I might be nothing there. Maybe some of these turquoisey lines will come down as little vertical marks. It kind of disappears, but it's there, but it's not. And as I said, we can add more once we started working with ink, but that will be for later. And for the landscape, I think I'm going to go for a similar lovely orange. I have a cooler corner with a rooftop. So if I would have gone for cooler colors, I would have got mixed up. Is that a rooftop? Is that a landscape? So I'm gonna go for warmer landscape behind it, and maybe warmer landscape, kind of hills, something going on there. And maybe cooler, maybe gonna go for a little bit of indigo, cooler blue for the mountain above here. Okay, maybe fresh indigo would be better. Quite diluted though. That might offset part of that white wall. Again, the landscape doesn't have to be dark or too precise. I think my warm on the left hand side is a bit too light, so I'm just adding up a tiny bit more darkness. So in a way, they kind of together as a shape, but they're a little bit different. And I think maybe I don't need a sharp line here. Okay, that's better. So my wash is now finished.
Are you still muted, Julia?
Yes, I'm still muted. Thank you very much, Gabrielle.
I just saw your hands moving and I wondered,
Excellent.
are you
Thanks
saying
so much.
Sorry.
Forgotten my hairdryer been used. Right, so I've dried my picture now. And I'm going to just practice a few lines on a scrap paper with my ink before I get going. Okay, so get your inks out. Maybe just test a few lines. Is the ink pen is running well? Can we work into some of the details? Can you write with it? Everything's okay. Sometimes dropping your board flat is much more helpful than drawing with ink on 45 degrees or vertically. That's going to be quite tricky. So the flatter your surface now, or even flat table surface, even better. Now, what I'll do now as well, I'll change the zoom and we'll work maybe on the top of the tower, maybe section of the windows, and maybe something here. And then we can add a tiny bit of watercolor there as well. Right, so I'm going to look at the tower. How much details do we want to bring in? I want them to be playful and I want them to be more spontaneous. I don't want too much finished things going on there as well. So for example, there's some lovely dark windows, so I can maybe do a little bit of line, not too solid line, but kind of playful line, bit of maybe outlines, maybe suggestive details, suggestive ovals, suggestive details above, little dots, little strokes. Okay, there might be some figures. I went on top there first time. And there's some barriers and there might be people and some wonderful, exciting architecture, but we can't see much of it. So something quite suggestive and simplified. And also, if we're doing anything dark, maybe there will be a focal point. Maybe it will be, let's say, a slightly darker corner. So I can do maybe almost like little horizontal strokes to show a little bit of shadow, bit of cross-hatching strokes. Just something's happening there, but we don't know exactly the volume or the amount. Okay. We can always again add line, and then we can add darkness of the color, or we can add color. I might work a little bit on the lines. I don't want to make them perfect straight or perfect outlines. Maybe it will be a bit of shading with using those little shorter lines. Maybe it will be little dots. Maybe there will be a broken line. Maybe there will be something a bit more darker edge kind of to the wider line. Okay, so have a little play with that tension. Maybe there will be an edge somewhere on the side here. Okay, maybe it will be even a little width. If you're not sure about longer big lines, or you can't quite see mine there, we can always come back to it with the color. Maybe some will be little patterns of windows. So that's when we use a photograph for some ideas how we can make our sketch a little bit busier. Okay. Now we're going to try to keep our darker lines a little bit more central. So maybe some of my darker tones going to come here. Okay. There are loads of patterns below. Would I want to do them all? No. Would I want to do a lot of them? No. If you decided that it's important to you and you'd like to do it, that's totally fine as well. I think I'm going to do some suggestions, because if I start following the exact patterns, maybe I haven't sketched it properly. Maybe it's not going to be in the right place or in the right proportion. So I'm going to have the more suggestive kind of found and lost patterns. If I'm doing the windows, do I have to have a perfect solid line for it? No. Can I have some broken line? Can I have it again widened up somewhere? Oops, I just got a big smudge of ink. Okay, I might leave it. You can't see it on my screen, but it's below in the middle of my painting. Maybe it will need to be matched with something else dark. I'll show it to you later and we'll see if you were to have something similar, how we can fix it. Oh, that's okay. I semi-washed it. Okay. Let's do some more details. Possibly some vertical lines or lines which will be following possible tiles on a dome. The dome hasn't got much details, so maybe make your own, or if you're not too sure, just leave it. We can focus on other things. So I'm almost making little cross-hatching shapes, and by the time I'll start adding a bit more darkness with the watercolor, we'll be on the right track there. Maybe a bit more details. How that line, kind of how those shapes will be following. Okay, if that's a bit more precise, we've got more of an outline. There is something happening, we can see more details, then they disappear, then they stop. Yeah, there is nothing happening here. Maybe it will be just a little edge. Starts here, stops. Maybe there will be nothing there at all. Okay. Okay. The windows and the patterns here next to the roof are quite important. Maybe I'll do the edge of the roof. That will just make it a little bit more clearer. Or maybe there will be some extra lines, kind of showing that direction, showing a bit of that perspective. Try to keep your designs of lines simple. Little scribbles, which might remind us of the tiles. It might remind us of the pattern. If we were to look, there are some beautiful patterns really close. There's some patterns of lines. There's some sort of designs going here. Maybe for the windows, I can see a little bit of definition of darkness. Maybe some of them will be just very little hints. But some will just remain as pencil marks and nothing else. Your lines don't have to be perfectly straight. When we've drawn them very straight with a pencil, they could be much more playful now within that direction. Okay, I might just do a little bit of shapes. Some sort of pattern identification. So it's there, but it's not. Maybe some of these ones could be visible. Some of them have disappeared. Okay, so I've done a little bit of ink work on that corner. Before I continue further, just to know that have I done enough? Have I not done enough? Can I touch it up with a little bit of color? Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for a little bit of darkness on the dome. Maybe my turquoise. I really enjoyed that turquoise. Maybe that's will touch up and work on a bit more on a silhouette. So we haven't lost the silhouette. And now I can maybe leave those, you know, those white structures on the building, on the dome. Yeah, so maybe we can leave them out and then dilute this color. So we see the tones. Okay. I think a little bit of indigo. I want to make this section slightly darker. We can see a bit of brown still there underneath, but that's all good. So this section of the cathedral stays dark. And maybe that indigo will come further down here, and I can leave some of the sections light. Maybe that belt will be slightly darker. Maybe those windows will come darker. Maybe I can darken them even more once they're dried, especially in the middle. Okay, just tiny bit at a time gives me an idea. Okay, maybe I need a bit more. Oh no, this is a good carry on. Maybe a bit more indigo for the shadow of this roof. and gently stop it as it's coming towards us. Maybe the lower roof will only have a tiny bit of texture and just smudge part of it. So just a hint for it. So very suggestive, very playful. I think the indigo works quite nice on top of it all. Maybe sections of here. Maybe I can draw certain arches and keep the darker tones again on the outer right. Oops, right, I need to move my camera so you can see what I'm doing at the bottom. Just little gentle smudges of the tone. But I haven't done enough, haven't done any ink there, but that's kind of given me an idea where I can put some extra color. Okay. And then I can again come back with my ink. I'll just work in the areas which are dry. Lovely, exciting lines. If you were to replace your pencil marks with the ink lines, that's fine, but that's not the aim. If some of the pencil lines will have a touch-up of the ink, it doesn't have to be everywhere. This is when you could be more spontaneous. Kind of have some suggestive designs, or there'll be loads of vertical lines or arches. Row of patterns, just loads of vertical again lines. Something happening with design of the top edge of the roof. If I didn't want to spend too much time using the lines, I can help myself maybe with a little bit of suggestive darkness of the color. And just immediately leads us to it. Just be careful so the color doesn't run too much. And sometimes it's good it runs. Okay, need to be careful not to go too much design close up, but I want to have that taking it all the way from us towards the center. Okay, and constantly zooming out, zooming in into details and working within the patterns. Some of you might want to keep quite a lot of details and keep building up and really play with the volumes of them. Some of you might keep it very suggestive. And that's kind of the beauty of the style, making it more personal. Okay, what's going on here? Lovely light, some interesting lines. Do I need to know more? Not really. It's full of air. Shapes overlapping. Light and line overlaps. Again, creative, suggestive designs.
Julia?
Yes. Right, so tiny bit more details on the edges, maybe somewhere here. Okay, my ink is drying. Okay, if I were to do loads of lines everywhere, it kind of gives me, oh, I have to do it more, I have to finish this end. But if I keep them sketchy and suggestive, it allows me to stop and not do too much. Or it's kind of a gentle build up to a painting. And I can come back to it at any point. So maybe here I'll add a bit more darkness in this corner. Maybe I add darkness for some of the arches here. Okay, maybe I'll have a little shadow. So I'm looking at the photograph and I'm not. Photograph sometimes could kind of give us too much information. We stop seeing the whole piece. I'm looking more at the painting on its own. Okay, let's see if some of these lines will help me. To come close to the end. I also feel something could be done with the sky. I think it looks a little bit plain. I love that semi-finished, sketchy stage. Well, it says a stage it will remain at. Right, maybe I'll do a little bit of something for my clouds. Got some indigo and turquoise together. I think I might put something. There's a big cloud. Cool on one side and maybe warm on the other side. Then it's Okay, it's can't quite see it on your screen. It will dry up a little bit darker. That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's more playful. And maybe I've got a little smudge here, so maybe I'll put a couple of birds here as well. Showing some space and maybe to show parts of the buildings and loads of things going on. Show maybe some of the directions of the streets or something. And I think I'm going to stop.
Julia, on the sky,
Uh-huh.
I just wet the paper and then drop some colour into it.
Okay, fantastic.
More
That's brilliant as
confident
well. So again, the same technique. If you've done those big shapes and just drop some color and see what's going to happen. Fantastic. Fantastic.
It looks
Superb. Well
okay.
done, Brian.
Yeah, it looks okay.
Superb. So I'm going to stop at that, but that's your playground. How far you can take it, where you're going to stop. Might have stopped earlier, might have kept it more disappearing and reappearing, might have put a bit more extra darkness. It's up to you. Photographing different stages and experimenting, developing it further is superb methodology there. Thank you very much, everybody, for today. And yes, I'm looking forward to your gorgeous paintings.